Welcome, lords and ladies, to another episode of Lords Mobile's Beginner's Guide. I am your host, Aevatrex, and today we're going to be tackling the all-important research. Now, research is something that's going to stick around forever in your account, so once you have it done, it is there, it is set in stone, it won't go anywhere. So it is very important for you to focus this, especially early on, because the advantages that it gives you over time is immeasurable to your account. Now, there are so many things to talk about when we're talking about research, from all the different trees to all the different benefits, etc. But one thing I will tell you is that when you're going to start your account with research, the one tree that you universally want to start off with is economy, because the economy tree, not only is it going to help you build your castle much faster, but it also will pave the way for you to also finish the military tree, which is one of the staples that you want to be focusing on until at the very least you get to T4. So with that being said, the economy and the military tree are the ones that you for sure want to start off with at the beginning. But since there are so many trees, a lot of people, what they do is they'll start something in economy, then they'll go down to another one and they'll start something, and then they'll just be skipping around from tree to tree, not really focusing on anything down. And what ends up happening when you do that is that you don't actually gain as much as you think you're gaining, because a lot of these trees, the really good stuff is at the bottom of the tree. And while there are some trees that will have some good things in the front, you realistically want to make sure that you're sticking to one and going down all the way, because that's how you're going to be able to maximize your rewards. Now, with that being said, like I mentioned, there are other ones that you may just want to go ahead and start from the beginning, like this one right here. Maybe you're not really into the wonder battles, but all of these bigger bags for smarts, etc. might be something beneficial for you, gem harvesting, etc. And then you can just finish that and then leave the others for later. So we're going to touch on that in a little bit, but before we get into it, just a reminder that what you essentially want to do is you want to make sure that you're first of all knowing what kind of account it is that you want to make. And if you're not so sure, then again, stick with economy and military for the beginning until you understand more of what the game can offer you and what your account can do, and then maybe you can start focusing on other things. But until you know exactly what kind of account you're building, try to just stick with economy and military first. The other thing that I will say is that the defense tree, this one right here, and the upgrade defense tree, these are trees that are going to be increasing your wall strength and HP, etc. But I would recommend for you to stay away from these trees altogether, because while increasing your wall strength sounds like it would be great, unfortunately when you're being hit, your wall tends to fall really quickly. So no matter how much research you put into it, the wall at the end of the day doesn't help you as much as you would like it to. So what ends up happening is that if you finish these two research trees, down the line it's might that you probably don't want. So what a lot of people do is they just skip the defense and upgrade defense trees altogether, and they keep that might off. Because like I mentioned in the last video, there is some might that you don't want to go ahead and claim, because later on in the game you actually want to keep your might a little bit lower when you start migrating from kingdom to kingdom, which is a big part of the game currently. So the more might you have, especially might that is not necessarily helping you too much, the less likely it is that you're going to be able to migrate freely. So something to keep in mind. Now here's a quick tip when it comes to research, especially when you're doing the higher level researches. Try to finish them when you have a hell event that has some research that you can complete, and the 24-hour challenge has some research, kind of like it is now. So what essentially you want to do is, if you finish the research when both of these things are on, you maximize the rewards that you can actually get. And especially if you're going to be unlocking these two heroes specifically, you have Chaos Dragon that you can only get through finishing hell events and 24-hour events, and then you also have Watcher that you can only get through the hell events. So I would say try to take advantage of that as early as you can. That way you can actually improve those heroes as early as you can. And as soon as I was talking about that, one actually came up. So you see here, there's a Chaos Dragon medal. So the best way to do this is, when you see a research like this that has Chaos Dragon, try to wait until there's a 24-hour challenge that also have Chaos Dragons, and you're going to be maximizing the actual amount of medals that you get from it. So right here, you have 3 million points to get, meaning that when you're finishing a research, you need that research or researches to actually add up to 3 million. Now, the way that you actually check that out is if you go over to your researches and you see, let's see this one, right? You go to research and it says right here, upgrade results, might plus 3.2 million, meaning that if I actually go ahead and finish this research right here, it will give me the amount of points that I would need to finish the whole 24-hour and subsequently the hell event as well. So try to plan ahead, try to make sure that you try to do as many hell events and 24-hour events together as possible to try and get those heroes maxed as early as possible. Now, because there's so many options, what I'm going to go ahead and do is go one by one with each tree and tell you exactly what I think about each one, and maybe that'll help you decide on which one you want to focus on before or after another. So, like I mentioned before, economy and military are the ones that you generally want to focus on at the start, and then defense and upgrade defense are the ones that you generally want to avoid, period. Now, Monster Hunt, this is a good one all throughout the game, but I will say that Monster Hunt, I would generally upgrade it as you upgrade your heroes and your Monster Hunt gear, because a lot of times when you get to maybe like Monster Hunt 4 or even further, even if you get to this level, if your Monster Hunt gear and your heroes are not up to par, this is not really going to help you too much. You shouldn't be hunting level 4s and 5s if your heroes and your Monster Hunt gear, it doesn't equate that. So what I would generally say is you want to maybe get to level 2 and upgrade as you upgrade your gear and your heroes, kind of like upgrade here and there, and then if you feel like you're hunting the level 2s fairly well and you want to move up to level 3, then go ahead and move up on the tree. But I wouldn't 100% focus on finishing the tree right off the bat until you can actually increase your heroes and your Monster Hunt gear. Now we have the upgrade military tree. Now this one is very underrated because this is one of those trees that would actually help you on the day-to-day operations of your account. Not only is it making your troop training cheaper, which is the name of the game, you want to make a lot of troops to attack with and defend with, right? But it adds so many extra bonuses that a lot of people early on tend to not really put too much thought on. Quick swap, a lot of different sets that's going to help you a ton. You have Central Command, which is more battalions. You have Bigger Army, which allows you to gather more, send more armies out, etc. And not only that, it's just so many extra things that will make your life easier. And then the coup de grace at the end of the tree, you get another army, which will give you another army to set gatherers, etc., etc. So upgrade military, very, very underrated tree, and definitely improves your day-to-day in the game. Next up, we have Army Leadership. Now this one, it's one of those that you can for sure get a lot of use in, especially early on, right over here, resource harvesting, etc. And the cavalry phalanxes and range phalanxes, that's going to play a big role down the line. So this is one of those trees that you can start and get to a certain amount, maybe around here where you get more gatherers, and maybe stop. But there is so much more that this offers. So if you want to go even all the way up to the wedges, even better. But once you start getting to the army offense and bigger army, that's where it is going to start getting much harder to finish as far as the researches. So maybe you can come back to this later on once you're going to be focusing more on the military side of things. But considering that this is going to be giving you army stats, which is one of the most coveted stats in the game, this is something that you for sure want to get eventually. And then again, bigger army. Nothing ever wrong with more armies that you can send out. And then the biggest thing is the weakened enemy, and then of course you have the HP and attack. And this is probably arguably the best stat in the game, just because of what it does overall. But it does get fairly hard to finish. So again, this is one of those trees that if you want to get to like the wedges, it's fairly decently fast to finish. But once you start getting into the military side of things, you for sure want to finish this tree because the boosts that it gives you are invaluable. Next we have Military Command. Now this one is one of the ones that I would put less value on as far as early game stuff, because the stuff that is given you is fine, but technically speaking it's not really that important, especially early on. You have a lot of things like for darkness and energy limit and max deposit, which are all fine and dandy, but it's not really the best of everything. So it's a tree that you for sure want to finish, but I don't know if it's one of the first ones that I would go after. You do have some decent stats with Battle Fury and Hidden Talents, but again, the usefulness of this is not really that high. So while it is useful, I would say that it shouldn't be in your top 5 trees to finish early on, but eventually you definitely do want to finish it. Now we're getting to the really good ones. We have Familiars. Now Familiars change the games completely, but this one I would say that is kind of like Monster Hunt, where you don't necessarily need to finish it all the way through, because you do need to get quite a few Pack 2 and Pack 3 Familiars, so you don't necessarily have to rush all the way down. But I will say that if you can get to Pack 3 at the very least and start unlocking those Familiars and upgrading them, that's going to help you quite a bit early on. And then later on you can go ahead and push to Pack 4. And after that, there is some more stuff at the end here, but I will say this. After you get Pack 4, you can pretty much kind of just forget about the end of this here, because these last couple of researches doesn't really add a lot, but it does add a lot of might. So again, adding a bunch of might, considering what it actually gives you, is probably not the best thing. Early on, you want to focus on, if you're getting might, you might as well try to do it efficiently. So what I would suggest with Familiar Tree is get to Pack 4, and then from there just kind of forget the tree even exists until you can come back and you're finishing off some researches. But Pack 4 is definitely a must eventually. Now up next we got Familiar Battles, which is a very stat heavy tree, which is a lot of people would love, especially once you're starting the military side of things. But I will say that you maybe want to get to Familiar Battle slot 2, because it's fairly easy to get there. But for the rest, I would wait until you're more into the military side of things, when you're up for more attacking and defending. And then you would focus on a tree like this, because it gives you a lot of stats, but it will take quite a bit of speed ups and also tomes. And that's another topic that we will talk about here soon. Next up we have Sigils. Now Sigils is one of those that's very heavy on this stats. So once you're getting into the military side of things, that's where you for sure want to go ahead and finish the Sigils. But I will say that even if you finish the beginning right here, it does give you a fairly decent amount of things, especially gathering speed, because you will be doing that quite a bit early. And then from there, once you finish all of that at the early game and you want to go into more of the military side of things, Sigils is definitely one of the trees that will give you the most stats, bar none, because it's just stat after stat after stat. And not to mention, of course, you unlocking the Sigils will play a big part on you actually improving your account as well. And then we have the last 3. Now, I'm going to bunch these up together because these 3 are fairly more of like the end game type. We have Wonder Battles and we have Advanced Wonder Battles, which are trees mainly focused on the fort battles. So if you're not there yet on your account, etc., these are trees that you generally want to go ahead and stay away from until you're ready for that. But there are some that you maybe want to go ahead and start getting some at the beginning. So you have Gem Harvesting, which is very good, and bigger bags, Force March, etc. That's all going to be very nice. So if you want to just go ahead and finish that, you can do that early on. And then Advanced Wonder Battles is just straight stats. So this is one that I for sure would leave till the very end. Now the last one, Gear, is where you take your T4 into T5 troops. And again, it is going to be one of those researches that is going to be very heavy on the amount of speed ups that you're going to need and tomes. So once again, this is something that has something really nice at the start: Central Command, Force March, etc. So you can grab those and then come back once you're starting more of the military side of things. Now eventually there will come a time where you are going to be advancing your research and you're going to need archaic tomes. Now, this is an item that you're going to need along with your resources, etc., to start a research. Now As far as how many you're going to need, that will depend on what you're trying to get to or what tree you're trying to finish. And I'm sure if you're trying to finish a tree and you're trying to see if archaic tomes are needed or how many you need, etc., make sure that you join the Discord. There's guides there that breaks it all down as far as each tree and how many you need, if you need any. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that, and that way you can plan ahead. Now, currently, the best pack that you can get for this is massive discounts, because it comes with 250 archaic tomes and a bunch of research speed-ups, along with some other goodies that will help you finish up your gear. So that's the one that I for sure would recommend, especially if you are trying to plan ahead. So make sure that you're getting the massive discounts. The other thing that I will say that you are going to need for sure is making sure that you're doing your kingdom labors, because when you do your kingdom labors, you get these things that are called technolabs. Now, these are things that will help you progress your research, and I still think it's some of the best value the game has to offer, because a lot of these researches, especially like I'll show you the ones that I still need to do, right? Like let's go upgrade defense and trap crafting. So you see here, let's see, wall repair. All right, so wall repair 2, I'm doing the last level, level 10, right? That will take me 88 days to finish, but only 13 technolabs, and I have over 1,000 just because I've been doing those labors. So make sure that you're doing these labors, and if you unlock the top part, you will get even more technolabs. It's called the gold pass, and this is what you get. You get 80 in a month at the cost of only $5. So if you want to improve your account and make sure that your research is improving as fast as you can, make sure that you take advantage of the technolabs, because I still, like I said, I still think it's one of the better updates for newer accounts to progress and get to where they need faster. And the last thing I want to touch on is, of course, the gear. Now, this is generally the gear that you want to start working on early on, and a lot of this you can start working on as soon as you can, especially these flutes. They're probably going to be the biggest pieces that you can work on early, because you can finish these just by gathering a lot of the materials that you need. You can just go ahead and gather resources. So as you can tell, you get this from gathering wood, you get this from gathering ore, and you get this from gathering rocks. So as long as you're getting the resources that you need to upgrade your buildings, you can also go ahead and be getting materials to upgrade the items that you need. So make sure that you're upgrading your gear, as well as using boosts whenever you can. There is a boost here that will help you research speed, especially if it's going to be a very long research. You want to go ahead and take care of and use one of these boosts. And if your overlord is nice enough, sometimes they go ahead and put the research boost for the kingdom, and there's also titles that the overlord can give you that can give you a boost. So make sure that you're trying to use all those boosts if available to you when you're doing your researches. And the last two general tips that I have for you when doing researches: when you start a research, you ask for help, and essentially 30 guildmates can send you help. Now, if you wait for those 30 helps, the cost on the days of that research is going to be much lower. So a lot of times what you want to do is you start the research, you wait for those 30 helps, and then you complete it. By not waiting for those 30 helps, the amount of time that you need is going to go up quite a bit. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that. And there are also heroes that will give you a boost on research. A perfect example is Petite Devil. Research speed plus 25% at gold, and there are quite a few heroes that will give you that. So if you're ever looking for heroes to upgrade your research speed, there are quite a few. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that as well. Alright, that's going to do it for this week's Lords Mobile's Beginner's Guide on Research. Next week, we will be tackling gear and gear progression, especially early on. So make sure that you tune in for that. Make sure that if you haven't already, you hit that like button and subscribe. And leave any feedback down in the comment section. But yeah, appreciate you guys for coming through. And until later, bye.